Up next is the last session for the day, which is a futuristic panel discussion, which will be discussing on managing the needs of your customers, human versus tech or humans and tech. Here the panelists are Lorian Venter, director from One Day Only from South Africa, George Minnie, CEO Auto Trader from South Africa, Kamohelo Portloin, Head of Customer Experience Development Rand Water from South Africa, Douglas McNeilage, Regional Director Sales Berend from South Africa, Vivek Ethiraj, Pre-Sales Lead MEA Freshworks from UAE, and we have the moderator, Ms. Danette, who is the editor from Bizcommunity from South Africa. I would like to welcome everyone to the panel. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone.
Hi, Pooja, how are you?
Good afternoon. Very well, George, how are you?
Good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I hand it over to Danette, to you now. The digital.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Welcome everybody to the final panel of the day. We're looking into the future with this panel, as the introduction said. So we're looking at the futuristic panel discussion, managing the needs of your customers. So humans versus tech, or tech and humans. So to kick off, the pandemic has obviously forced consumers to adopt new technologies. And this has really taken them out of their comfort zone. Consumers who never before engaged online, they're now getting their prescriptions online, their groceries, and they're even using payment methods that perhaps before they didn't actually view as safe. And in South Africa, I think Black Friday, which is coming up soon, is probably a good example of how much South Africans have taken up e-commerce and digital channels. Not that we're anywhere near the international level, but our growth has been from a low, obviously starting a low level, but it's been really quick. So in fact, today, the PayFast e-commerce performance index actually was released, and they said total online sales for retail are expected to reach 42 billion this year. And that despite it being a difficult year, 48% of merchants saw an increase in revenue, spurred on by 50% increase on online sales. So really the ground is shifting beneath our feet, and we're looking more and more to technology to meet our customers. So there's no turning back. And consumer behavior is not going to go back to what it was. However, what the question is, so we have all these technologies at our disposal: blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics, augmented reality, virtual reality. All of these have become familiar to us. But how do we utilize these to grow our businesses, but at the same time use them to understand consumer behavior and then meet our consumers where they are online, when they want to meet us, and then to create better experiences for them. So in other words, not lose the human touch. So our panelists have been introduced, and I'm going to ask them just to give you a little brief overview of who they are. And I'm just going to start with the order that I see on my screen. And so George Minnie from Auto Trader, that would be you. If you'd like to just give us a broad introduction to yourself, and then we'll kick off the discussion.
Hi, Danette. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm part of the furniture at a brand called Auto Trader. Been there for about 17 years, and lived through the transformation of a business from an analog world to a digital world. So, and I think that's quite unique in the world today, because everybody is trying to play catch up, bring their businesses online, especially with lockdowns. So I think Auto Trader is a good example of a business that successfully did it, and could have been disrupted along the way.
Thanks. And it's going to be interesting chatting to you about that. Next, we have from Rand Water, Kamohelo Portloin. He's the head of customer experience development. And Rand Water, as you all know, is a state-owned entity. So I think this is also going to be a very interesting discussion. Perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about what you do at Rand Water.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Danette. Good afternoon to everyone. As Danette has indicated, my name is Kamohelo Portloin. I head up customer experience development for Rand Water. Rand Water is a bulk potable water supplier, as well as providing sanitation services to customers. In my case, when we refer to customers, we refer to municipalities, mines, and industries. We supply the entire of the Gauteng province, as well as parts of Northwest, parts of Mpumalanga. And in terms of what I do, ensuring that we improve our experience for these customers, being a public sector entity. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Next I have on my screen is Vivek. And I think you're coming all the way from the United Arab Emirates, if I'm right?
Well, Danette, right now I'm placed in India. Thank you for the introduction.
Okay.
May I proceed?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I work at Freshworks and I lead a team of solution engineers who are fitting our customer experience, employee experience, and customer relationship management software as a service tools that we have online to our customers. So my role is to understand the needs of the Middle East and Africa region and make sure we are bringing in tailored experiences to the customers. How do our customers end up giving a good experience to their end customers, right? Be it talking to them at various omni-channels, managing their customer experience team, managing within their enterprise IT solutions and IT service management. So looking forward to this discussion. Thank you, Danette.
Thank you. Lauren, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Lauren Fenter. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at One Day Only. One Day Only is South Africa's best daily deal site. We offer hundreds of different products every single day for one single day. So it's a really fast-paced, hustling business that, every single night the website wipes clean and we have to start fresh. So it's dynamic and exciting, and we definitely are very, very much at the forefront of investigating, what needs to be done with man and what needs to be done by machine. Always keeping our customer right in the very center of our business, but then using all the amazing technologies that are available to us to be able to sort of really hype that up and ramp it up. So I'm excited to talk about that a little bit today.
That's great, and we'll definitely talk a bit about Black Friday as well with you. Next, we move to Douglas. If you just want to give a brief introduction to yourself.
Thanks, Danette. Good afternoon. So Verint is a pure play customer engagement software company. We are a global company, and we provide the market with software products and solutions that better their customer experience to their customers, as well as their employee experience internally within their businesses. Through the pandemic, or when I was offered the opportunity to work for Verint, it was looking after the South African region from all perspectives: sales, channel, customer service support, and it was quite daunting because my extended team is all over the world, in EMEA, in the US, in APAC, etc. And by taking on that challenge, it was easy to get through the pandemic because we were ready. We were a very fortunate company. We were one of the very few companies that were ready, and how that benefited us globally was that we had solutions and products in place to assist our customers to better enable themselves through the pandemic, to allow their systems to carry on running, their employees to work from home or work from anywhere. And through that experience, we have gained even more loyalty and trust from our customers because we've helped them through a very serious situation. And in doing that, we have improved their business at a rapid rate. So it's been a very exciting time for us at Verint, and we continue to grow the South African market.
Great, thanks so much. I'm going to kick right off, and I'm going to go back to Lorianne. So we say e-commerce has mushroomed in South Africa. And I read that you said that the site has grown by 40% in just 4 months after the industry was pushed to the severe lockdown restrictions. Now, it appears you said the opportunities are even bigger than initially thought. And your quote is, the point is you never know what deal you might wake up to. And I must tell you what I found fascinating is that One Day Only has actually sold a luxury micro apartment in Cape Town for over 3 million rand. So it's not just buying hairdryers. This is much more than that. So what I thought is, when you talk about these opportunities, what are they? And can you explain them in relation to some of the technologies that we're talking about?
Great, thanks so much, Danette. Yeah, I think, augmented reality and machine learning, AI are such buzzwords right now, and there's so many shiny new things that it's so easy to jump in on them. But the challenge is that machine learning really does still have quite a long way to go to try and understand some of the nuances of the human behavior. So, for example, human irony. I was listening to a great case study the other day of a bank, someone in a bank who wrote on social media to say, I have been sitting in the bank for 3 hours. Oh, I just love the interior decorating here. Obviously sarcastic and not very hacky. But of course, the robotic and the machine learning will say, positive sentiment, loves the decor. And that wasn't the sentiment that was being communicated at all. And I think that's the sort of thing that we've really got to be very, very careful of, is to make sure that we always are managing to keep the customer at the center, keep that human element going. And I think that's the trend that's definitely being spoken about today. The other thing is that customers can very easily get distracted by gimmicks. And you can lose your purpose very, very quickly. So if you've got these amazing little gimmicks to try on lipstick, in a sort of a virtual reality thing, or you've got, little gadgets and gizmos, people can often go on almost for the gamification that those things offer, when actually, like in our case, we really want to sell products, exciting daily deals on a daily basis. So these gadgets and gimmicks have to build and add on to your brand and onto your product, rather than just be something shiny and new and attractive. And I think in e-commerce, the one huge advantage that we do have is data. We've got data on our customers, we've got data on what's selling, what people are interested in, what they're purchasing, etc. And we know that hour by hour, minute by minute. But with so much data, you can so easily get lost. And so our interpretation of that data is critical. So at One Day Only, one of the biggest ways we are using machine learning is with our email sending. Email sending is our biggest money driver in the business. We've got over 2 million people who are subscribed to our database. So it's something that's really critical and key to the business. And so we've partnered with a big email sending service provider that can give us all of the things that we need. So for example, personalization, which was spoken about by the previous speaker, all the newsletters can be personalized by name. So it'll be, hi Danette, here's a great Lego pack for you, or something like that. It's really important that you get those little personalized touches. You're more likely, and we've seen that time and time again, to click through. We get a much higher click and open rate from that. And again, you've got to have the human element that goes, okay, well, we can't say hi Danette, hi Danette, hi Danette every single day, because it's going to feel creepy. So how regularly do we do it, and watching those sort of things. And the other thing is that we serve up content based on what you've clicked on, what you've purchased on, hovered over. I know it sounds a little bit creepy, but that's where the machine learning does come in, so that we can target and nurture customers based on their actual behavior. So my email will look completely different to my colleague who's sitting right next to me, but I'll be much more likely to shop if there's content that's based on what I like to look at and buy, rather than just any other product that's not there for me. And we in fact tested man versus machine. There's a girl called Jessica who's been in the business for years. She really knows more than anyone what will sell, what won't sell, etc. And so she always used to set the newsletter, and that would go out and she would look at it, and we thought Jessica will win hands down. And day after day we tested Jessica versus machine, and the metric was revenue. And unfortunately Jessica has now no longer setting the order, the machine sets it, because it's based on personalization.
Thanks for that. I want to go back to the one point you made about the shiny things, and I want to bring Vivek in here. I think we can be very sort of attracted to shiny things and to add all sorts of bells and whistles, but perhaps you can tell us, what are the most important things you think if if you want to be successful in your business in e-commerce, and maybe it's not just e-commerce, it could be something else, how are you going to make sure you put the basics in place and that the technology is working for you?
Right. So to bring in an angle of keeping your customers happy, I think we did go with the saying that customer is king until very recently. And now I think the trend is moving towards employee is the king. So you primarily want to keep everybody happy, all the stakeholders happy, which is your customer, your employee, and the business, right? For the business to be thriving. So how do we bring in technology, right? When we bring in technology, it should be non-interfering, but it should be optimizing what you're already doing. For example, a customer comes and asks you on a daily basis, like 100 of them ask you, at what time is my bus leaving, right? So as a travel company, you don't want 100 employees sitting and responding to them. So you bring in technology, you bring in probably a shared service platform if you don't want to own the necessary hardware to deploy something and respond to them, each one of them, right? So you build in a bot, and the bot knows which bus you're going to be taking. So you're maintaining that in your customer relationship management software. So it looks at the phone number, you booked with that phone number for so-and-so bus, so it's going to give you the time. And if there's an additional question, such as the customer says, you know, I would rather move my seat from seat 1 to seat 4. So that is something maybe an employee can pitch in, right? So you need to strike the right balance and allow a machine to do some aspect of the work, which is mundane, repetitive, and can be improved. Whereas there are aspects that a human needs to use the sensitivity and sensibilities that Lorian just brought up to respond to those queries. So I feel a balance needs to be struck between the amount of automation and technology used versus giving the customer the right experience with the human touch as well.
Thank you. Douglas, perhaps you can weigh in here as well. How do you start your process? A business comes to you, they want to do this e-commerce or this platform, and they want maybe to do, they probably have all sorts of things they want to do. How do you advise them? Oh, your microphone is off, so we cannot. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so our process really starts with a business requirement, and you know, and really about listening to what our customers' challenges are. You know, a lot of people in our space don't listen, and they just try and, you know, push products and solutions onto customers that they don't really need, or they don't really know how it's going to value and benefit their businesses. So our process is very unique, and it's very transparent and honest. So once we understand that, you know, that challenge of the customer, we can map a product or a solution back to that challenge to be able to resolve it and then add value and benefit further. The key thing about our platform is that it's a single platform that you can add on multiple solutions and multiple products. And that's really where the drive globally is going from. So, you know, one provider that, you know, understands my need and my challenge and can resolve my issues, you know, using technology that not only is going to benefit my customer at the end of the day, but is going to benefit my employees within my business. So, you know, if you have a great employee experience, your customer experience and your customer's journey is going to be better for them anyway. And we were talking about, you know, artificial intelligence and AI, etc. And we have products in that space as well. We have RVAs, which are intelligent virtual assistants, so not really chatbots. And why I mentioned that is that there was a trend in South Africa at one stage where everyone was just asking for, you know, chatbots. I need a chatbot, okay. And traditionally, what I saw, it was being driven down from the top down. So, you know, executives in a business talking to their friends, yes, I've got one, okay, we need one, but not really understanding what that piece of technology is going to do for their business. And what we saw with, you know, that approach was it was damaging to the business. It was damaging to the customer's experience. And evidently those technologies were scrapped or relooked at or redesigned or redeveloped. And our approach in that is that from an RVA, it needs to, or artificial intelligence, it needs to be able to do a complete end-to-end process that your customers require. And I'll give you an example, and it's an example out of the US with the US military, who is one of our largest customers globally. So if you've ever been to the US, they have recruiting stations all over the country. So be all you can be. I want to join the military. I go to my main street of my small town or my large city, and I walk into a recruitment office, and there is an officer sitting there, and he tells me about the journey of joining the military, what is required, and what I need to do. So the military looked at this, and what their challenge was is that this was taking resources out of the field, valuable resources, military men who are protecting and serving the country and the country's values. And what we did is that this intelligent virtual assistants, which they named Sergeant Sarge, completely removed that entire network from the country. So the recruitment into the military now is done fully from a intelligent virtual assistant called Sergeant Sarge, from start to enrolling in it, giving all your thing, picking up your uniforms, and going to your first deployment. And that is a really valuable technology that, number one, resolved an issue that the military had, and number two, was very innovative and very seamless, and took a lot less resources to be able to achieve that than the human, element would.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting, actually. I want to move to George now, because George, I remember your product, and I'll probably give my age away here, as being like, and I worked in print media for a very long time. That's where I started my journalistic career, and was always envious of Auto Trader. You'd come in there and Pick and Pay or CNA, now I'm really giving away my age, and it'd be this really thick weekly publication. And so I want to talk a bit about when you are a legacy business, because we've spoken about shiny things. Now, I think if you're a legacy business and suddenly you go, okay, I need to be digital. How? And I guess there could be that sort of temptation to jazz it up, or because you're working maybe from coming from print into digital is quite different. What were the challenges for you to make sure you still met your customers' expectations moving from print into the digital sphere?
Danette, I'm closing in on 50, so you don't have to feel too bad because you're younger than me. But yes, we used to call it the creepy crawly killer. Luckily for us, we never distributed that magazine on the back of bicycles and threw it into anybody's back or front yard, because somebody could have been seriously hurt. To paint the picture, we were in over 5,000 retailers distributing roughly 200,000 magazines a month. This was on a weekly basis that we distributed magazines. And we had two competitive advantages. Nobody could print the volumes that we printed, and nobody could distribute the volumes that we distributed. So we, over time, built a brand. And if you think to yourself, I'm not a digital business, I'm not online, but I want to digitally transform. I'm going to take all these wonderful things from this world into the digital world with me. No, you're not. We only took one thing with us, and that was the fact that we built a brand. Everything else had to be rebuilt from the ground up. There was nothing else that we brought into that world. We had a big stone around our feet, and that was that magazine, because we had existing revenue and existing profitability that we had to maintain. So it was a very big weight in the world of the internet in the early 2010s, particularly. It took about 10 years to transform the business from an analog world to a digital world. And we were almost disrupted because new, fast-moving, internet-only players came into the market, low cost, didn't have the costs that we had, and could undercut everything. from speed all the way through to price. So we had a serious risk on our hands. We had to invest more than the startup coming into the business would have had to do in order to try and keep our leadership position. And as I said, the only thing we took across was the brand. What made us successful? It definitely wasn't consumers, although that is the end result that makes you successful. It wasn't consumers, and it was to a certain degree our one side of our network's customers, which is the car dealer. But the thing that really, I think, took us across the line was the culture of the business. If anything, that would be the second thing that we took from the analog world into the digital world, was, besides the brand, was the culture and the people of the business who were invested in making sure that we were a success online. So the challenges were insurmountable to some degree, but we made the transition. You know, one of the biggest challenges in the magazine in the day was we could only publish about 10,000 cars at the magazine's thickest point. Beyond that, which was roughly about 800 to 1,000 page magazine. Beyond that, there was no printing press in South Africa that could print a thicker magazine, and we knew that there were roughly 40 to 50,000 cars for sale in the country, fivefold number versus the number that we could actually put in front of the consumer. So the disruptors, or the new entrants to the market, had the ability to reach scale very quickly online. And we could only print and distribute a magazine with 10,000 vehicles in it. So from all fronts, we were being attacked. And, you know, fortunately today we sit here, we unshackled ourselves from the magazine. We closed it in 2017 after a 10-year transition. Now, if we were willing to walk away from the revenue and the profits of the day, we could have shut that magazine in 2010 or 2012. But then we would have had to get investors to invest big amounts of money in order to get us up and running and to compete. So we chose not to do it that way. It took us 10 years to transition the business. And today we fortunately have about 10 million visits a month, people opening 75 million pages, whereas back in the day we were selling around 120,000 magazines a month. So you can see that the scale is roughly 10-15 fold.
That is quite amazing, and it just shows you the power of digital. It's interesting what you said about you just took your brand with you, because you built a brand. And so I want to move next to Rand Water, which I have always found a fascinating brand, starting actually by the mining magnates when gold was discovered in Johannesburg. And so that, I think, is quite a legacy brand. And I think, Kamohelo, could you perhaps tell us a little bit about how you are using technology to reach your customers? Because, I mean, I think it could be quite difficult. There's water, we can't do without it, but when there is a water stoppage or outage, people are sort of really up in arms, and that must be quite something to deal with.
Thank you, Danette, and to the audience at hand. Indeed, Rand Water is a 118-year-old brand established in 1903, as you've indicated, as a result of the mines. About 2 or 3 years ago, Rand Water adopted a strategy called the innovation-driven risk-based strategy. And there are some fundamental pillars to the strategy. One of the pillars is proactive communication. Believe it or not, many public sector entities are always laggards when it comes to, omni-channel. And I think we were one of those. And it's only recently that Rand Water has gone on social media. And that has allowed us to be able to engage our customers much, much quicker. Had we not gone on social media, for example, we would not be able to communicate, maintenance of our network in a much quicker manner. We would either have to communicate with our customers via email who essentially would then communicate to the public, being you and I as the end consumer, through their channels. So the fact that we are now on social media, that has assisted. The second pillar in terms of the innovation-driven risk-based strategy that we have adopted is the establishment of an innovation hub. And essentially, in the next 5-10 years, you're going to hear of a word called digital water, where essentially we are going to digitalize water. And what does that mean? For people out there who do not know, but South Africa loses about 42% of its water. And we are classified as one of the 30th driest countries in the world. That costs you and I as a taxpayer approximately 8 billion rand. Now, as Rand Water, some of the technologies that we are implementing to ensure that we are able to, keep this precious resource is things such as drone technology, as well as satellite leak detection. An organization as old as 118 years old, you would appreciate that our infrastructure is definitely old. Therefore, you need some form of technology that will assist in terms of being able to identifying leaks, as opposed to physically sending manpower. They have to drive hundreds of kilometers, you're losing lots of water, you're causing interruptions to your customers, who then cause interruptions to the end consumer. In terms of drone technology, it's going to assist in terms of us monitoring any floods or disasters so that we are able to communicate. So those are some of the technologies that Rand Water is adopting and that it will be adopting going forward in terms of ensuring that we preserve this precious commodity.
Thanks so much. That's quite fascinating, digitalizing water. I wanted to go back to Douglas as well. A point that was made about the culture of business. Because we talk about our customers, we have external customers, but we also have internal customers, which are employees. And you touched on this in your introduction, and I wanted to come back to it. How you communicate with your employees using technology, because they can also be your ambassadors. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about technology that can be used internally for your own employees, for your own company.
Yeah, sure. So do you mean like the saying, eating your own dog food type stuff? So like a lot of software companies, they sell and they promote a lot of their products and solutions, but they never use their own products. And yes, we are very different. We internally within our business, our solutions, not all of our solutions are suitable to our business because we're a software company, we're not a bank, or we're not a online store or a digital e-commerce company. So where we really see the value from the employee side, and we've seen it a lot in our local market, and I can talk to you some examples about that. So by using technology internally to boost the culture of the business is a really, really important factor to look at if you are a business. And the reasons for that is that with technology and software, you can automate, like Vivek said, you can automate a lot of the mundane, repetitive tasks that a human being on a daily basis has to, get up at 3 in the morning for, have to do all those checks, etc. It's not a very exciting job, etc. And when you're doing that, your culture is dropping, your morale is dropping, etc. So by implementing technology to take that away, you're creating a more innovative environment for these individuals to be more creative, to add more value to the business, expand their knowledge and their skill, move up in the company a lot quicker. So that type of dynamic when using technology really works. Another example is that, and this comes from one of our large financial banks, is that we were called in to say, we have this very specialized contact center. The individuals that work in this contact center have to have a minimum of 1 degree. We prefer 2 degrees. So when we started listening to this, we're like, that's quite a very high standard of, employee that you're asking for. So while we get into the details around, the dynamic of this contact center, and it was very high wealth contact center that was servicing. And the main challenge was that this contact center had an attrition rate of 75%. So all they were really doing was getting people in. These people were looking at the culture, looking at what the tools that they were being given, and looking elsewhere. They weren't necessarily leaving the company. They were perhaps moving laterally or moving into different departments and that. And what the executives of this company wanted, they wanted something that would, not only attract these type of people to work in their business, but keep them in the positions for longer periods of time. And the reason for that was around technology, and the technology that was used was technology that the youth, or the varsity students coming through, were using in their day-to-day lives. So when people get used to using a technology and working in a certain way that they enjoy outside of their career, when they go into their career, if you cannot provide them with that same sort of experience or culture, you're not going to retain those staff for much longer. So by putting in, it was mentioned earlier around gamification, that we implemented this and we saw a massive change in the culture. We saw, the employee retention was longer, and inevitably the customer service was a lot better. So when you look at it from that point of view, it's extremely important to keep that culture as high as possible. And our insurance companies in this country do that very, very well. If you've ever had the chance to walk through, the 4 big insurance companies, they all have a different dynamic, they all have a different culture, and it's such an exciting environment to work in. It's lively, it's loud, they've got some incredible incentives for their employees, and some really, really innovative day-to-day tasks and activities that they do, and it's amazing. So and our insurance companies are really in the top of their game in the global sphere, because I've walked contact insurance companies in EMEA and in the US as well.
That's so interesting. I think consumers consider insurance as a grudge buy, but it's good to know that everybody in the company is happy.
Definitely.
I want to turn to Lorianne and just speak a little bit about how do you use tech and humans? Now, we know Jessica's on her way out, but how do you combine your tech and being human to run a successful business?
I'm sorry, I did get cut off for a second. I'm just checking you were asking me.
I was asking you, how do you use tech and then the human element to ensure that you get a successful business? I guess, how do you mesh the two together?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a great question. I think we look at it on a constant basis. We're constantly measuring it and monitoring it. And the way we do it is to constantly say, right, well, the customer is at the center of every single journey. So we have got ways to utilize it from a tech point of view, and I've touched on some of those ways. One of the other ways we do it is to use the journey automation. So we target users wherever they are in their life cycle. So if we just get new subscribers on, then we start giving them the right messaging. So that their first thing will be, hey, welcome to One Day Only. The next day it will be, here's a 75 Rand voucher to be able to spend on the site. The next day it will be something else. So you can use the tech to be able to nurture them and take them right down a funnel. But then actually when we want to do it where we're keeping the customer more sort of the center of the business, we do things like we were looking at Black Friday, and it's a really, really, really important day. It's an important month in terms of e-commerce, more so even than sort of Christmas Day and festive. It pulls right the way back. But it's a very, very busy place, because everybody's shouting Black Friday, everybody's trying to grab your attention, and it's very, very difficult to make sure that you are knowing exactly what your customer's wanting, etc. So in order to do it, what we decided to do is we sent out a survey to just establish exactly what our customer wants to buy for Black Friday. We ask them, what sort of brands are you looking for? What categories interest you? Is it tech? Is it apparel? Is it both? Is it homeware, all of those sorts of things. And then we looked at things like how much are they actually planning on spending? So surprisingly, they were happy to share that information with us. So we use technology like SurveyMonkey to send out the survey and then to collate all the responses. We sent it out on a weekend and we got 10,000 responses in on that Monday morning, which really shows that human element. 10,000 of our top customers just decided immediately, I'm going to respond. I actually want to communicate what I'm looking for. And so we could then find out exactly that 70% of people are looking to buy tech products. So what we can do is then we make sure that we use our tech on the day. So on Black Friday, all of those people who said, we're really looking for tech products are going to get a dedicated newsletter that's going to say, hey, Danette, here is TVs, headphones, etc., and it will be something that you'll be interested in. So that's the kind of way that we do it. But we're trying to make sure that we're communicating with them, they're communicating with us so that we can provide it. It also is very helpful for us, for example, to then be able to go to our suppliers and say, look, it's really important. You have to make sure that you bring in those hoverboards and they need to be in not the day after Black Friday, but 2 weeks beforehand. So these are all the really important sort of touch points that can make sure that our business can provide that kind of service. And then obviously we need to communicate to our customers. That's what we've done. So we have to make sure that our marketing echoes all of these things and make sure that the kind of products that they were looking for, the kind of brands that they were looking for, that those are the kind of adverts that they're getting served and getting seen. So yeah, we have to try and make sure that we've got this perfect combo of man and machine, and hopefully we're getting some of those things right.
I guess it is important to get it right. I mean, Black Friday it's very competitive. It gets very noisy out there. It's a whole week. The consumer probably gets a little bit fatigued. And then, of course, there's the bricks and mortar that they might also be looking at. I want to pose the same question to George, and you have a different product to Lorianne, but how do you use tech and people to ensure that your business runs successfully?
So, I mean, Danette, we've got a different product to Lorianne, but ultimately, our consumer is the same consumer, and we communicate to those consumers in a very similar way. And before I unpack the answer to that, I think there's one principle that many businesses that grow very quickly or that sit on a lot of data suffer from, and that is you can reach a point where you've got too much data, and then you get data fatigue because you just don't know how to make sense of all of the data. So we try and keep things really, really simple. And we try and understand our customer journey from the need arousal stage of buying a car all the way to the purchasing experience, which exists at the car dealer or at the private seller. And we're constantly asking the customer what their experiences have been like at every stage of their journey. A very difficult thing to do when it comes to car buying because most platforms, e-commerce platforms, know who their consumer is. The one difference with Autotrader is we don't know who the consumer is. Until that moment of truth, we don't know who the consumer is. So a lot of our clickstream data, most of our clickstream data is anonymous. So we have to really build in clever technology and understand our consumer based on that clickstream data. Now we've got a lot of it, and the one thing to kind of be sure to do in any business, but in our business particularly, is and I think Einstein said it the best, and that is everything should be made simple as possible, but no simpler. And Steve Jobs with the iPhone kind of echoed the same sentiment. That smartphone is incredibly complex underneath. It's very, very complex. But when the user gets there, it is very simple to use. You don't even need a manual to use a smartphone. And so we try and follow a very similar approach. Our business's data structures underneath are complex, and it's built over a long period of time. But when it comes to communicating with the end customer, a car dealer, or even the car buying consumer, we try and keep it as simple as possible. And the way to do that is to really have human beings in the background interpreting the data. And somebody said it right at the beginning. I think it was actually Lorianne said it right at the beginning. In terms of customer sentiment, somebody sitting in a bank, and that's the risk you run if you don't insert humans into the process. Is you can get the result wrong. And we have Black Friday as well, believe it or not, with cars. We've got a separate Black Friday site, and our customers sell a lot of cars on Black Friday. And the lead up to that is quite a lot of data analysis and collection, and then being able to understand whether the car is actually going for a good deal or not is another piece that we do. But all of that analysis and understanding of how consumers are shopping during this month of October and during the month of November is important to understanding whether a particular car is a special deal or not, because no AI is going to be able to tell us that. The clickstream data just moves too quickly in order for a bot to be able to tell us, is that VW Polo actually a good deal or not? So in the background, human beings and the interpretation of data, I think, is still a very, very important part of a digital business. And I think we're a little bit far away from robots telling us what to do.
Thanks. Vivek, I want to come to you now because we're talking about data. And so there's lots of data and we need to interpret it. And I think that's the thing. The data's there, but it's always about interpreting it. But I have, I suppose, two questions for you. One, how do we ensure we can interpret the data and use the right tools to do that? And secondly, what about security? So this is one of the biggest concerns when people going online and shopping online with e-commerce is security. So perhaps we can just, I've asked you two questions now. Sorry, maybe you can answer them both for me, please.
Sure. This is interesting. Let me just make a note. One is data security, and so that I touch upon both the topics. And the second one was about
that there's so much data, and how do we find tools to help us in our business? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Danette. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yes. To begin with, if you see back in the days, probably 10, 20 years ago, everybody had their own data center. Every enterprise had an outsourced project or an in-house project where they would build a solution for every problem statement that they had. That was proving an expensive affair where you need to have a large team, an IT team, a developer team, a management team, a power generation, backup power to have the system up and running when it's not there. And then we evolved into moving into a cloud platform where somebody gives you the platform where it's all there, right? And with AWS and Google Cloud and Microsoft Azure coming in, they are assuring that their data centers are up and running all the time, right? They have 2 levels, 3 levels of backup. So we rest assured our business is up and running. So the next thing is, how do we know if they're keeping our data secure? So we go ahead and look at the tools that they have, right? So they have the core system, they have a firewall, they have a VPN. There's several rings of security built around the core where you're hosting your shared service application. For example, Freshworks is hosting our suite of products in multiple AWS data centers across different geographies. And we know that they're providing the same level of security, and we are configuring it such that, say, one of our customers, let's assume it's MRPG from South Africa, is hosting their data in a particular data center, let's say in Europe, and they want their backend, let's say, billing system to speak with it. So we ensure that only the IP addresses which are unique to their systems can speak with their instance, which we are hosting in Europe. Nobody else can speak. If there's a connection that's coming in from elsewhere, it's going to be rejected because that IP is not welcome here. So that's one of the layers of security where we are ensuring we're configuring the application such that it can listen only from certain IPs, certain backend systems that have to speak with it. Now, how do we differentiate? We're hosting in the same data center. We're also probably hosting for another customer, maybe an insurance customer who's using the same product, right? And what we can do is we can do something called IP whitelisting, wherein only employees from that organization, from a set of IP pools within their office environment, can log in to look at the data, because it's really sensitive customer data we're talking about here. It could be a celebrity whose phone number gets leaked out just because it was on that platform and anybody saw it. That could be a serious lawsuit. So we're getting into complicated areas there. We ensure there are several ways in which data can be managed within and for that specific customer, even though multiple customers are hosted in the same environment. So that's how data security is taken care of in a SaaS environment. Now, moving on to how do we interpret complex, huge volumes of data, right? So let's assume there is a CRM product, you're maintaining your customer relationship, right? The end customer comes in and says, you start a marketing, let me go through a small journey here. We have this marketing application where you are sending out a mailer to an end customer, right? Or a bunch of them. Of course, it's customized. You're having a fancy UI mailer, which is pure HTML, looks appealing, and is customized, has the customer name, has the specific product that they might be interested in based on patterns that we've observed earlier. Now, this mailer list goes to 20 of them, 10 of them respond back. That information comes back again into the system. Now, what happens over a period of time, you're sending campaigns, you're getting responses back, and the system is learning, right? This is where the AI comes into the picture. It's learning based on responses, say 50, 30 days or a 50-day period. You know that this particular campaign is able to, at this particular time, can get you these results, right? The system continuously learns and brings it up as a report to the organization who's sending out these mail campaigns. And what do you interpret from that, right? So you can't be sending any product at any point in time to that customer. So this pattern could be built over a year, over 30 days, over 60 days, and you understand at what point in time you need to send out a campaign. So this is where the interpretation of responses, interpretation of the whole cycle comes into play, and you know the customer has gone for a purchase. So you need to go through one whole cycle and feed that into the, it's available in the database. So the algorithm goes and keeps learning it and feeds it back to the marketer or the enterprise who's going to be sending these campaigns out. It's a feedback loop. So I think that that will definitely help anybody in taking things forward.
Thank you. I want to take it now back to Lauriane and George, talking about machine learning and AI and how, I think, Lauriane, you spoke about how you use that in your business. And maybe you can just give us another example of how that's worked or not worked for you.
I think we really have also used it in terms of personalization on the site. So we try to use it so that Various things will pop up to the top of the site and be interesting for people. We've tried to use it a lot for search functionality so that people can search for products that they're looking for. And then we use that information later to make sure that we've got the right products for people. I think also really what we do, we've got incredible dashboards and data points that we are focusing on a really daily, minutely, hourly basis to see what is selling, which of the buyers are doing a great job with finding the right products, which of the suppliers are performing particularly well, what products are selling well, what sort of percentage off works very, very well. So that's from a sales point of view. And then we've got so much that goes on from a marketing point of view. We're looking constantly at our open rates. We're looking at our subject lines, what works, what doesn't work. We're looking at how many new customers are on the site. Are people looking at information on a daily basis? Are they coming back once a week? Are they coming back once a month? What is the data points on people who are on the desktop versus what are the data points of people who are on the mobile site versus the app? And what we found, for example, on the app is that people are much more frequent, going onto the app much more frequently. So obviously it's something quick and easy. You can just go onto it and they're sitting and scrolling and watching. And in fact, they're shopping more frequently too, but their basket size is much lower. It's obviously just a quick little something, you scroll and then click and purchase. Whereas when you're on the website, you might be inclined to have a look at it and go, okay, cool, actually, there's more that I can add and there's more than I can add, etc. So we have to look at those behaviors all the time to make sure that we are meeting that. And then you've got all the user experience information that you start to get. So for example, people really want to be able to click through their purchase process as quickly as possible. So the easier and more simple that you make it to go from, I like this product, I want to purchase it, you put in your details and they can go straight and move on with their lives, the more likely you are to make a sale. So any sort of blockage along that way is going to affect that. We need to be looking at that on a constant basis. I think also just in terms of our data, we have to make sure that we are keeping it very safe and secure, and we work with a lot of partners to ensure that that does happen. Even things like credit card payments, we use somebody like Peach Payments to make sure that that sort of information is kept safe and secure by external guys where that's their absolute focus. There are all these different ways that you can utilize data, use it, and then also make sure that you have other ways to keep it safe and secure to make your customer able to trust you as much as possible.
Thanks. George, would you like to weigh in on that as well? It'd be interesting to hear what your experience has been.
So Danette, I mean, first of all, I'll predicate my argument in making a statement using an example outside of AutoTrader and then using an example inside AutoTrader. So first of all, if AI was all it was cracked up to be, we would have self-driving cars already. We don't. I drive a Jaguar I-Pace electric vehicle, and it is a level 2 autonomous vehicle, which means that it can keep the lane, it can keep within its lanes, it can follow the car in front of it, but uses image recognition software in order to understand where the lane is and where the car is in front of it. Now Waymo has gone a lot further, where they've got self-driving vehicles on the roads using LiDAR, and there's a big debate around whether LiDAR versus image recognition is the way to go. Tesla seems to think that they can build software that can cause a camera to be like a human eye. But nobody is there yet. At best, Tesla is maybe level 3. We've still got level 4 and level 5 to go. So you start at level 0, which is, the vehicles created in, the 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So we're not there. And that, I think, is the best example I can think of globally where, people speak about AI. It's just not there yet. It still needs a human in order to sit behind that steering wheel and take over when the thing messes up. So we're not there yet. Not saying that we won't get there. Inside Autotrader, we investigated. Let me give you the example. It was people put images of vehicles on our platform. We can't. The volume of images that get uploaded, there are about 75,000 units for sale on our platform that we don't upload onto our platform. Our customers do. Typically, there are about 20 images per listing on our platform, and we see approximately up to 150,000 listings a month. So if you multiply 150,000 listings multiplied by 20, you can see that there's a couple of million images that flow through Autotrader's platform every single month. Now, why this example is important is because we have a couple of internal business rules when it comes to what images are allowed on our platform. Now, you can imagine what kinds of images could end up on a family show like Autotrader. If we're not uploading them and we're not moderating them. So we have to moderate almost literally every single image. Okay. So our objective was to find artificial intelligence software that could look for certain things inside images. Okay. So the big deal items, like it's not a family show picture, that the software can pick up quite easily. But when it comes to certain business rules that we have, like for instance, we don't allow customers to put noise behind the car. For instance, telephone numbers. We try to get the images as clean as possible so that the car is the hero and nothing else is the hero within that image. When you start to get to those types of moderations, AI just begins to fail. Now, it fails in single to close to double-digit territory, right? But if you're looking at millions of images, singles to double-digit territory is still a big number. So AI does work. It just is not perfect. It just doesn't get there. So now we've got human beings sitting in front of tiles of images that flow through their screen on a hourly, minute-by-minute basis. And believe it or not, the human being is faster at detecting multiple thumbnails of images than the AI is, and more accurate. When you've got thousands of tiles on a screen and you're looking for something with a telephone number in it, believe it or not, the human eye is very, very quick. And I'm not saying that the AI can't get there, but at the moment we find that humans are very, very good at image moderation.
I know we are very good at modeling, actually, human beings. We're very complex machines, actually. And to give you an example, when you come to a traffic light, for example, your brain unconsciously is creating millions of models of what could happen. And that's so interesting about the way we work, so I can believe that. I want to ask, a question has come through for Douglas, and we're also going to run out of time, and I have an important question I want to ask everybody. And perhaps everyone could even answer this question, but we'll start with Douglas. What was the biggest tech change you found that COVID-19, the lockdown, the pandemic, etc., has brought on?
Yeah, great question. It was actually something I was actually going to comment on in my next availability slot. So the biggest technological change that we've seen, or demand that we've seen globally and especially in South Africa, is interaction analytics. So what is Variant Interaction Analytics? It's an analytics-based platform that analyzes voice to text, any text channel, be it chat, social media, email, etc. And why I think this is really important and the demand is so high for it is that companies really want to get that in-depth look at their customers, like it's been explained recently here. And while we've seen where we saw a lot for speech analytics before was mainly around compliance. A phone call, is classed as a contract in some areas of the business. So you want to transcribe that phone call from start to finish, attach it to the contract, be compliant, etc. That was the starting point. The exciting, innovative stuff is now you're using this platform to categorize your customers, to categorize their needs, for many different areas of the business, be it additional sales, be it, security, be it fraud, etc. Fraud, very, very big, fraud issues in our financial system currently. So we've seen that take on really, really quickly and the demand going. And where we've seen our customers make the most strides is where they take a focused approach around interaction analytics. And what I mean by that is that if you take a large financial bank, they have many business desks within the organization. What one of our customers has done is that they've created a division that is now the interaction analytics team within the group. So not just in the one company, they've got 5 large organizations. So they've standardized one platform throughout the group, and now they're analyzing, throughout the group. And what this gives them is, a much better understanding of who their customer is, what their customers want, what their customers' challenges are, and how they can better service their customers in the future going forward. And all of that on top of a platform that's going to have massive amounts of data flowing through it. They need to be able to manage that effectively and use that technology in the right way. And by centralizing that function, you get the most value and benefit out of it. And we've seen customers, ROI in like very silly high number percentages in that. So a lot of them are scared to make the investment, but once they take that leap, they make the investment. Return on investment is massive for them.
Thanks. Actually, we're almost coming to the end, and I have one question I want to ask everybody, but I want to go back to Kamohelo, and I just want to ask you, does Rand Water perhaps have an app or something? Because I could imagine having some sort of educational app for kids with gamification where you could educate them about saving water. Do you do something like that? Is it on the cards? Yeah.
Thanks, Danette. A great question. Look, so our education team or brand is known as WaterWise, and it caters both for adults as well as for children, specifically within the school environment. But with regards to an app, that's definitely something that it is coming on board. I perhaps just also want to touch on, this balance between human and technology. What we have realized as Rand Water is we developed what is known as the Water Use Efficiency Index. And this index has allowed us to be able to zone in on the meters where we sell to our customers. And we can pinpoint the area as well as pinpoint the meter that is using excessive water. And what we then do is we collaborate with our customers, in this case, mostly municipalities, where the country had something called War on Leaks. It was a national program. And what War on Leaks program was getting, students to go and retrofit leaking taps, etc., etc. So that's where we have seen the balance in terms of the use of technology, as well as, the human side. And then lastly, what COVID has taught us as Rand Water is that we need to start manufacturing our own chemicals as well as our own energy. Sadly, of course, our dear brother or our dear sister Eskom, we've all experienced a heck of a lot during this week. And one of our biggest cost drivers and inputs into pumping water is energy. And with the disasters that we're experiencing, we just cannot not have our customers not being able to supply end consumers, water. And on the supply chain side, we have realized that with COVID, many supply chains have been constrained. Now, chemical dosage is a very, very important component of cleaning water. And this is why we are now busy with technologies in terms of investigating what it would take for us to produce our own chemicals going forward. Thank you.
Thanks. I think what's really interesting about this discussion is, it's not man versus machine. It's not Terminator and the end of the world. It's more collaboration. And also, there's so many technologies out there. It's one of my favorite movies. Finding what suits your business is what's important. And so the last question I want to ask all of you is trust. So it's really all about building consumer trust. If I trust your website, if I trust your brand, and a lot of it's about trusting the brand, I will go and I will purchase there. But if I don't, I won't. So how do we use the technology and human interaction to ensure that our customers trust us? And maybe I'm just going to start with the order of my screen again, which is with George, to comment on that. We only have about 9 minutes left. So maybe if we each do about a minute, 2 minutes, then we will should be okay.
I'll be really quick, Danette, because this is something that we're passionate about. Autotrader is one. Our overarching mantra is the trusted motoring marketplace, and trust is built on two things. The one is transparency, and the other is anonymity. Consumers want transparency, and consumers want to be anonymous. As a business, most businesses don't want to give transparency, but they want to know who their user is. And if you don't give those two things, if you don't give your user the ability to be anonymous, and you don't give your user the transparency, you're going to battle to build trust, in my opinion.
Thanks. Douglas, you're next up on my screen.
Yeah, sure. So I think, consumers want to, number one, be listened to. So they want to be heard. Number one. If you listen to your customers correctly, you can be able to service their needs in the most efficient way and the most trusted way that they want that to happen. And if you take technology versus the human, if I get told by a brand that I'm engaged with, etc., that no, don't worry, you can trust me around this, and then they don't deliver, I'm not going to go back to that brand as repeat business. So companies are using technology to have the black and white. So did we listen to the customer correctly, and did we deliver on that promise or that request that we had? And by using technology, and another example again is interaction analytics, you get that black and white from the customer, and that's when you can go back to the customer and they will repeat business with you. They will expand your brand. They will talk about you on social media, etc. And really, that's how you build trust and transparency around brands and technology.
Thanks. Vivek, could you weigh in on this for us?
Sure, Danette. So I'd like to start by saying how do we gain trust of our customers? It should be with you're maintaining an account ledger, right? A customer has bought a particular item, and if it's a manual data entry that's being done, and the data entry person puts in a different product code, ultimately there is no trust. At some point in time, the customer is going to come back and say, "This is not what I bought. Why are you giving me incorrect data?" So this comes from a design standpoint. So when you're designing a solution using technology, you need to understand the business needs, right? And make sure you are streamlining data entry, you're streamlining inputs such that there is integrity from end to end, from purchase to the analytics, to the reports you're showing. This builds the trust with your customer. And I think that's really important for data integrity, to have a good quality team and ensure your software solutions fit the business requirement in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Kamohelo, would you like to weigh in on the trust? It's, I think, a nice one for you with Rand Water.
I think, Danette, I've probably got the easiest answer. A, because you know, water in South Africa is a regulated commodity, and I guess our customers don't have any choice. And I'm also going to respond by saying this in a tongue-in-cheek manner. A couple of years ago, Eskom would have said, yes, you know what, we're a monopoly. But today we all know that you can either light your candle or you can go solar. And in the water sector, we have a saying that says water has no substitute. But that doesn't mean we should become complacent. And where trust is concerned, we have regulations such as, you know, the SANS 241, which is a drinking regulation to ensure that the water quality that we produce as Rand Water meets international standards. And I'm proud to say to you and the audience that as Rand Water, we produce the second best quality water, you know, globally. So that has ensured trust, you know, with our consumers. And it's a value chain at the end of the day, because if Rand Water supplies water to, you know, a municipality such as the city of Joburg, who then supply to the end consumer, you as the end consumer as well want to know that you are getting good quality water. So for us, we have to ensure that we are, you know, the greatest contributor of this value chain.
Yes, well, years ago I worked for the CSR and they tested Rand Water, and it was the best water in the world. So that story's always stuck with me. So I'm glad to hear we're still up there. There's not many places in the world you can always open the tap and actually just drink the water. We're going to end off with, I never realized that it was a panel with just one lady. Lorianne, would you like to talk to us a little bit about trust and how you give your customers trust in your brand?
Great, thanks so much. I think building trust one-on-one means, you know, building relationships, being true to your word. What people see is what they get. And with building that with an e-commerce business, it really is taking those exact fundamentals and scaling it up. So the way to do that for us is that we look at it at every single touch point. So that includes, well, as soon as they go onto the website, do they know who we are? Are we explaining what the payment methods are? Are we explaining who we are? Are we explaining how to do returns in a clear and concise way? So that's the communication side. Credit card payments on an e-commerce site is the most important trust area. It's the biggest part and often the biggest barrier to entry for people is how do we hand over our credit card details? So that's massive. But then it's really important, you know, is the product what we say it is? So we've got an in-house studio. We do a lot of our own photography. So even if it is, you know, a product that is maybe a slightly less expensive product, etc. What you see is what you get. So, you know, we're always trying to make sure that we do that. But then again, at One Day Only, we also work a lot with the big brands, and that's really helpful because they've already built that trust by having these amazing brands, and we sell those. So that's really helpful. And then I think just finally, we do have to make sure that we deliver as we say we are. You know, if we say we're going to deliver between 5 and 10 working days, we need to make sure that we do that. If there's any issues along the way, that we communicate that. And so it's important that every person in the company understands this, that every single person in the company works this way to ensure that that trust is followed through in your customer service, in your purchasing, in your procurement, in every area to make sure that we do actually do what we say we're going to do.
That's true. At the end of the day, you have to walk the talk. It doesn't matter whether you're bricks or mortar or whether you're online. And I think for me, what's come out of this panel is that technology is great and it's enabled so many wonderful things, but the human is still key in this process. Also, just because there's great technology out there doesn't mean you have to use it all. You need to pick what works for you. And of course, brand is still key. Trust is key. Thank you so much, everybody. You've been a great panel. Have a great rest of the day. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow at the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.